Yeah, no worries. It's still showing offline. Did you? Hang on. No. Right.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever What's the Quack? Today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and pretty much everything Assassin's Creed. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, Carbon Glitch. Say hello, Carbon.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight? Hopefully everyone's doing well.
I certainly hope so.
I'm looking forward to talking all things Assassin's Creed. I think it's going to be cool.
Oh, it's going to be fun. You're playing Assassin's Creed on your streams at the minute, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm playing through the sort of series at the minute. I started with the first one, and I've just started the second one. So my intention is to do after this one. My intention is to do Brother Revelations and the third one, and then see how it goes after that. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do all of them all the way up to Valhalla, or if I'm just going to do the three.
I mean, if you that's cool. I've got a sound effect, and I've got absolutely nothing to tell me what it was for. Oh, well, never mind. I am still trying to figure out this whole Streamlabs thing, so, and graphics are pretty new to me on here as well. So if things start looking a bit sketchy, I'm blaming the hardware. That's what I'm doing. So, so today we are going to be talking all things Assassin's Creed. I actually want to start off with the main topic, to be fair, because Assassin's Creed Valhalla is on the horizon. It is going to be out in about 6 months' time. It says holiday 2020 is a release date. Looks good at the moment, Emily. Thank you very much for letting me know. What do you think of the graphics, by the way? I spent about 12 minutes on them.
I think they look pretty cool, actually.
12 minutes is a very... It took me hours, so long to get this right. But I was learning on the fly with this, but I'm quite happy with the way it came out. So yeah,
it looks good, mate. Looks good.
But to the crux of the matter, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It says holiday 2020 is a release date, which obviously means somewhere around about Thanksgiving or Christmas time, anywhere between end of November to December time. So we've still got a bit of a 6 month wait. So there's plenty of time for news to come out. What do you know about Assassin's Creed Valhalla so far?
Well, not really. I mean, I've seen both the trailers. I saw the announcement trailer when it came out. The announcement trailer looked really interesting. It looked mint. And then I saw the gameplay trailer, and it always makes me laugh with Ubisoft because when they do an announcement trailer and then they do a gameplay trailer, they never really release that much in the way of gameplay.
No,
the gameplay trailer was just like a few scenes, a few little cut bits that they put together, but then it was just like footage of scenery and stuff like that, and it's like this isn't really gameplay. So
it's more of an in-engine thing than anything else.
Yeah, they sort of show off the engine that they've been working on rather than the gameplay itself, and it's like, well, you can't really call it a gameplay trailer if you're just showing off the engine. So yeah, that's all I sort of know so far. I have read one or two other bits. I mean, one of the things I did read was that you can sort of establish villages and build up villages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so that'll be kind of cool, I think.
I've been reading into that one a little bit, and it sounds quite similar to Red Dead Redemption 2 and the camps that you have in that. It seems that one of the things that you've got to do is you've got to level that camp up. You've got to make it something. It's a home, effectively. You've come over from Norway over to England, and you're trying to establish yourself there. You're trying to make it a new home for you because you're escaping the constant war over in Norway.
Right.
So effectively, you're refugees. It's like Viking. I never thought that I would. Thanks for the follow, Fallen Angel. Thanks for that. That's probably what the sound was earlier, and I just went. I've no idea what's going on. People following me. What's going on here? So we've got ourselves some Viking refugees, basically, and the whole camp aspect says that it's going to have a lot of bearing on the gameplay. They haven't gone into detail about what that means. I can only assume that it's going to maybe you get like ammo or something for bows or
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean,
Maybe it can be where you can upgrade your weapons and you have to upgrade
yeah,
the actual
upgrade your armor
smithy.
and stuff like that. That would make sense. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, if you don't upgrade the camp, you're going to be lagging behind in terms of weaponry, maybe even supplies. I feel like it's going to be
Yeah.
very Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I mean, if they do go that way, I think it would be kind of good, just because in the campaign, especially in Red Dead 2, the sort of detail you can go into with the camp was really, I found it brilliant. I thought it was one of the best sort of features of the game. So yeah, I just sort of think if they do it similar to that and not how they've done it in the past. I mean, like, because in Assassin's Creed 2, you can upgrade the villa, you can upgrade the town and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and that was very sort of simplistic. You couldn't really go into too much detail with it. So
yeah,
I hope
they
that dynamic and just
expanded.
put a bit more detail in it.
Yeah, absolutely. They expanded it in Brotherhood a little bit with trying to upgrade Rome, but really all that was just spacing the buildings apart.
Yeah,
And then you kind of had to track down which ones you could upgrade and which ones you couldn't.
right.
But I mean, in that case, it was really more about money. It just gave you in-game currency, and that was it.
Yeah,
And really, the only thing that you spent your gold on was occasionally getting yourself more ammunition or buying a new weapon.
hmm
And in other cases, it was just investing in more businesses to get more money. So it didn't have
okay.
a massive impact in past games, but in this one, it sounds like it's going to be very different.
Yeah, it
Uh,
sounds like it's going to be sort of one of the sort of main dynamics of the game, which is good.
which, yeah, I mean, if you're going to introduce something, you've got to make it important, really.
Yeah,
Which brings me to another little aspect that they've brought back, which was very important to previous games, that being stealth, social stealth. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool. That was introduced in the first Assassin's Creed with the monks, when you could just blend in with
with the
them,
monks. Yeah,
which I
yeah,
always found hilarious because you're just wandering around. You're in your robes, yes, it's all white like the monks, but you're also armed to the teeth, and nobody
yeah.
ever clocked that.
No, exactly. Nobody ever clocks like the belt around your waist with the knives on, or the throw knives on your shoulder. It's like, yeah, a monk wouldn't be wearing that kind of stuff, I don't think.
It's just like, oh, he must be one of them warrior monks, Asian. It's got to be.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man, but yeah. So social stealth was a big thing. They kind of made it a little bit
mm,
more realistic in Assassin's Creed 2 when you were with the courtesans. Um,
courtesans. Yeah,
and I think by the time they reached Assassin's Creed Black Flag, they kind of perfected it.
yeah, they did. Because when in Black Flag you could get into large groups, couldn't you? I think that was the first one where you could get in, you could hide in large groups, you could sort of disguise
Yeah,
yourself amongst the people and move amongst the people. They did I feel they did sort of get rid of that a little bit as they went on in later games, like in Odyssey, for example.
yeah,
You can't really camouflage amongst the people. It literally is just like you're a Spartan, go and kick them in the chest and kick them off a cliff. They took that sort of stealth kind of thing out, really. I think
yeah.
as the game sort of progressed.
It did feel that way, didn't it? I mean, it was more
Yeah,
about if you were going to hide, it was very blatantly in a bush or
Bush. Yeah,
just very far away. So
yeah,
just don't get inside the visibility cone and you're grand.
correct. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, social stealth is back, and the big one, which quite frankly I don't know why they ever took it out, was the hidden blades are back.
yeah,
The signature weapon of the assassin is back in the game, which is awesome
yeah,
because in Odyssey the most you saw of that was in a DLC. Once the
yeah.
DLC was done, so was the hidden blade. You never saw it again. So I'm glad to
Mm,
know that we're going to have the assassin's blade back, even if you're not technically an assassin,
yeah.
or at least to start with. I'm not sure how that works. Obviously, they haven't got into detail with the story, and I don't expect them to.
No.
That's going to be a grand reveal later, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree, and it's good to have the hidden blade back though, because I mean, as you said, it was a staple of the games. You could do quite a lot of bits with it. I remember, I think in Black Flag or something like that, you could actually upgrade it. I mean, I think in the second one as well, there's other bits you can upgrade the hidden blade with and make it more powerful and stuff like that. Because when Odyssey he first came out, I actually thought the Spear of Leonidas would become the first hidden, but obviously they didn't do anything with that, and they turned it into like a first. So I was a little bit disappointed when that didn't come about, and then they did the DLC, which I haven't played, by the way. The only DLC that I've played is Fate of Atlantis. That's the only one I've done. So yeah, I was a bit upset when they took the Hidden Blade out of it, really.
Yeah, I was gutted. Honestly, I was gutted. I mean, I did.
Yeah.
I wasn't too. In a way, I wasn't too bad with it because the Blade of Leonidas was, well, it served the same purpose. It was just a fancier looking thing, and it just wasn't attached to your wrist. But
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Bing. Assassin's Creed for the win.
Yeah.
I
I think we can all agree to that.
honestly, I can't say that I'm not a huge fan. I'm literally sat here. Hang on, I don't know if you can see this in my Assassin's Creed Syndicate T-shirt right now, which was
Nice.
totally not done on purpose for the stream. I've also got my Ezio bobblehead right here as well, which is cracking. And I'm not going to move the camera because I'll make everybody seasick. But above me, I've got an Assassin's Creed
cool.
Thing hanging above me. It's like a tapestry type thing.
Nice.
So I'm to say I'm an Assassin's Creed fan is kind of an understatement at this point. So I'm absolutely loving this series, and I know a few people who bowed out around about Assassin's Creed 3, because they were just getting sick of the whole future branching narrative stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing as well. Ubisoft didn't help themselves really because they were knocking out games pretty quickly. Because like after the second one, they sort of released like Brotherhood and Revelations.
Yeah, they were kind of back to back, weren't they? I think I've lost you.
No, hang on. There we go. It's come back now.
There we are. You went silent for a second. Yeah, it's almost like you trailed off.
Yeah, it seemed to hiccup for a bit there, but yeah, I was just saying that they seem to release all the games in a very fast. And you know, by the time we got to the third one, I think a lot of people just wanted a bit of a break from it.
Yeah.
That's why I think it was good. Sort of after the third one, they sort of slowed down on releases a little and didn't release them so quickly, really, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean that was it was quite welcome. For me though, I was just happy with whatever I was getting with Assassin's Creed because I was just eating it up, man. I was just eating it.
Yeah.
But it was, in a way, it was still quite nice to savor it a little bit more because they spent a little bit more time on each game after that. Like Assassin's Creed 3 had its later DLC, the Tyranny of King Washington, which I haven't played yet, but I
haven't played that one either.
I have just got it on Game for Gold. No, wait, hang on.
Nice.
No, I didn't get it on Game for Gold. I got it as part of the season pass for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It came with Assassin's Creed 3 remaster, which also comes with the Assassin's Creed. Is it Liberty? The one with I forgot a name. Totally forgot a name now. Oh, that's going to bug the life out of me.
Cassandra.
No, from oh my god, that's going to really annoy me. if anybody can remember the name of the assassin girl from Assassin's Creed Liberty, just let me know in the chat.
That's it. Yeah, I don't remember because that's the only. I think out of all the Assassin's Creed games, the only ones I haven't played yet are Brotherhood, Revelations, Liberation, and all
Liberation.
The sort of
I'm saying Liberty. I don't know why it's. Oh God, I call myself an Assassin's Creed fan. Getting the game names all
they're the only ones I haven't played because there was quite a few side-scroller ones, wasn't there? There was Russia, India, China, and one or two others. They're the only ones I haven't played. And Brotherhood and Revelations, all the others I've played except for Liberation as well. I haven't played that one, but I've played all the others.
I started playing Liberation, but it's very. I mean, it was brought out on the Nintendo DS, I think it was, which was.
Yeah, I think it was either the DS or was it the
PSP? Maybe
the other one.
Could have been the PSP.
Could have been. I can't remember now. That's going a bit far back
Yeah,
for
it
my
was.
memory to work.
It was. I don't think it was a PSP now I think about it, but it was a handheld console. It's very, very obvious that it was developed for a handheld console.
Yeah.
Because it has a very watered down version of the game engine. So I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get through it, and I might end up having to go and watch like a let's play or something for it. Just because I'm not sure I could get used to trying to play it as the ported version because it's not very well optimized.
Yeah.
It's also very scaled back, but that's irrelevant. We've kind of gone way off topic. I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say we kind of sidetracked a little bit.
Let's have a look. I've written down some of the details, or features, I should say, for Valhalla. Now, obviously, the obvious one that there is that we are Vikings, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I am of the bearded persuasion because I am very much a fan of Vikings. So
Vikings. Yeah.
when they said, "Oh, we're gonna do Assassin's Creed but with Vikings," I was like, "All the fucks, yes."
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been teasing Vikings for a while as well, haven't they? Because I think they started teasing Vikings after Black Flag, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because there was rumours flying around that the next one after Black Flag was going to be Vikings, and then that turned out to be Rogue.
yeah,
And then rumours still persisted that there was going to be a Viking game. Don't worry, we are going to release a Viking Assassin's Creed Viking theme.
yeah,
Blah blah blah. And then they obviously released Origins and Syndicate and all the others, and it just seemed to get to the point where people weren't really starting to believe there was going to be a Viking game. And then all
yeah.
of a sudden they drop it, and it's like everyone's going crazy now. So that's good.
And it looks like, to be honest with you, it's looking like it's worth the wait.
Yeah.
Because we have a bit of an upgraded combat system in this one. It sounds like it's going to be very, very similar to Origins and Odyssey in terms of the way it works. But we can now dual wield, which is brilliant.
Yeah. That's
Obviously,
cool.
as a Viking berserker, having the dual wield axes is just part of the look. So if you didn't have that, it would be a bit odd. So I'm really happy to know that that's a thing. And in an interview, the creative director for the game said that the map is going to be slightly bigger than Odyssey's, which is incredible, given that it's set in England and the other one was set in the Greek Isles. So
Greek Isles, yeah.
there was a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, I mean, I have my reservations a little bit with the maps because in Odyssey, before I start, actually, let me just say that I think the map in Odyssey is brilliant. The size of it, the detail that go into it, it's brilliant. But for me personally, I think there is such a thing as too big. It's like I've completed the game now. I've completed Odyssey. I've done the occult playthrough. I've done the sort of Atlantis playthrough and stuff like that. And there's still, I would say, a good 60-70% of the map that I haven't uncovered yet. And it's like I'm never going to get around to fully completing this map just because of the size of it. And it's sort of like it winds me up a little bit because I'm one of these guys that likes to complete the maps. I always do like the eagle view first to unlock all the map and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
I like to
when they say
climb
that this
all the
map's going to
towers.
be So when they say that this map's going to be slightly bigger than Odyssey, it's good, but at the same time it makes me a little bit sort of cautious, maybe, just to sort of the size of it might be a little bit overwhelming, sort of thing.
Yeah, I can see that. With Odyssey's map, a lot of it isn't used until you've bought the DLC. It's touched on in some of the main story campaigns, but it's not really explored until you get like the Legacy of the First Blade and the Atlantis one. Mostly Legacy of the First Blade. That kind of is what uses up the rest of the map.
Okay.
If you've done the Atlantis one, you know that obviously that's based all inside its own simulation, which is
in its own. Yeah.
The old animus within an animus within an animus. It's
animus,
God. God, that boggles the mind.
That it just got a bit complicated with that.
Although, I tell you, I learned something earlier today that really impressed me with the lore of Assassin's Creed. The future protagonist that we play as now is Layla Hassan. She was introduced in Assassin's Creed Origins, and we got an idea that if you look through all of her emails, you'll find that she was quite the whiz with the technological stuff. So she had a lot of upgrades with the Animus, a lot of that. It turns out that they took this character and ran with them off the back of the Assassin's Creed film.
Oh, okay.
Her name, or she, was mentioned in that film as the designer of the Animus that they use within that film, the Claw Animus.
Okay.
Which was apparently something that would enhance the bleeding effect.
Bleeding effect, yeah.
I loved that. I've got to say, I mean, it was an okay film.
The film. I agree with that. I mean, the film for me wasn't Assassin's Creed really. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Michael Fassbender. Fassbender, I think, was brilliant in it, but the film itself, as a tie into the games, just didn't work for me. The sort of Animus, the Claw Animus, and everything, and the whole sort of look and feel of it, it just didn't feel like Assassin's Creed. It just felt like they were doing either a remake of it or a copy, a simulation of it that didn't really quite work.
Yeah.
I feel it just didn't really add much to the universe either. Really, it didn't really add much to the canon. The film wasn't all that great, to be honest.
I think they managed to salvage something from it. That being the character of Layla Hassan. I'm not sure whether they intended that, whether that was just a happy accident, and they thought, well, actually, no, that's pretty cool. Maybe we should work with that character, or whether they just looked back and went, "Huh, well, we're out of ideas." just went.
let's just grab this random character out of this and put her in there.
Yeah, let's just do that. It'd be fine. Nobody will notice. Nobody watched the film, so it's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the end, it's a lovely little tidbit though, which I thought was pretty cool. Especially given in terms of a canon reason for the Animus being like that, I liked it. The idea that it would enhance the bleeding effect, it harnesses it so that it's more stable. I like that idea.
Yeah. I mean, because the whole bleeding effect up until that point is sort of seen as like a side effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was more seen as like something that could go if you spend too much time in this machine. So I think the film sort of took that and reversed it a little bit and said, well, instead of being a side effect, let's turn that into a benefit.
Yeah.
And let's turn that into something that could be a viable thing that they could use rather than just a byproduct of the machine. Yeah,
pretty much just saying, well, actually, this is pretty cool and pretty useful, so maybe instead of fixing this, we should just use it instead. And that is a very Templar attitude. So kudos to them on that one. It was quite... In fairness, there is some pretty well executed stuff in that film, even if overall it is pretty mediocre. But here's the biggie. Getting back to Valhalla.
Yep.
This is the bit that's excited me the most, and I found this out yesterday. We have Viking rap battles.
Oh yeah, I saw this. Yeah, and this looks.
I've seen it described as like the insult battles, sword fights from Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Which that's pretty cool in of itself because I love that as a mechanic.
Yep.
But apparently it has its roots in real history, in real Viking history. So it was called flighting.
Yeah.
Which was effectively, it's just a roast battle. It's the Saxons and the Vikings in mead halls would usually just roast each other using rhyme and rhythm, and just to kind of try and one up each other in front of the general public, in front of their people. And it all dates back to apparently Odin doing it to Thor and just absolutely tearing him a new one. So the Vikings sort of kind of went, all the Norse culture just sort of went, well, we're going to do that. If it's good enough for Odin, then it's good enough for me.
Enough for us. Yeah.
And I just love the idea that I don't have to like stab somebody up now. I can literally just go in and tear him a new one verbally.
Just like throw all kinds of insults at them.
which that to me is cracking. And I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a lot of fun with that, though. I think most people, like content creators especially, I think there's going to be a lot of content there for people to sort of do with that. I think that's going to be a good sort of dynamic to have.
Oh yeah, it's I think it's actually also a very good use of multiple choice as well, because the way it was. Let me just have a look. I've got some articles for my sourcing of information. Which one is it?
Yeah.
No, that's about creating a coherent IVAR, which we will get to, because there is something to be said about that as well.
Yeah.
While I'm looking at this as well, and reading this out, if drop a comment down below and just tell me what's your favourite mechanic so far in the Assassin's Creed series, because I would love to know. But here we are. Yeah, so this comes from Eurogamer. They had an interview with, and I'm going to absolutely butcher his name, and it's going to suck, but with the creative director Ashraf Ismail. Ismail.
That's the one.
That guy.
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it, Ishmael.
Ishmael. Cracking.
Yeah.
I'm not a douchebag for another day. So it says from just a little snippet of the interview that they had with him. It says, here someone may challenge the game's protagonist Ivor to one of these battles, and the player is presented with multiple choices of response. You have to find the right one that matches the insult, the one that has the right rhythm. And that is cool, because they're taking a multiple choice system, and instead of just going, well, choice A means that guy over there will die, and choice B means that you're going to have to fight a lot of them. They've just gone,
fight a lot of them, yeah.
Here's a way to just like completely destroy one person, and potentially even get them. They could have their entire posse, their crew, as it were, just drop them. They could just be like, you got owned, mate. Yeah, you're. Maybe you should just leave. I think we've been defeated.
just walk out the door. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't turn around now. You're not welcome anymore. Yeah. So that one really, really got me. I enjoy the idea of flighting, but that actually brings me on to something else as well. It's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the multiple choice thing in this game, because now, just like in Odyssey, you have options to not be violent. There is political discourse within this game. So it said that the part of England in which you are based is split into 4 factions, into 4 sections. And you can make alliances with the people in these places. So you can kind of set yourself up and become an ally with different people. And that will affect the way that the story goes. Which, that's cool.
The fact that the dynamic.
Oh, I'm losing you a bit.
These guys, and then. Oh, hang on. Yeah. A bit of a spike. Hang on. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I'd lost you for a second there. I was just about to drop you a message, but there we go. Cool. It might be that I have all of these tabs open, to be fair, so I might have to close a few off when I'm done with them. There we go. We'll get rid of a couple of tabs, just see if that sorts my bitrate out just a little bit. Are you still with me?
I think it sort of talk it up, but then when it comes to delivering it, just.
Yeah, I've completely lost you again now. I can hear you. I can hear
Alright,
you.
can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. All right, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to abandon these tabs and just see if that helps out with my connection a bit. Because it's telling me I'm skipping a lot of frames. Yep, I think we might have lost Glitch for just a moment. But in the meantime... Oh. Ah, disconnected from Discord. Well, that makes...
Yeah. I got you back now.
Oh,
Can you
there we are. I can hear you again.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed to. I think Discord took a bit of a dump there, and it disconnected you entirely. I couldn't hear anything for a second there.
Oh, that's cracking. Right, well, I've just disconnected my my laptop from the internet just so that we've got a little bit more, hopefully, bandwidth going on.
All right.
I should probably point out to anybody watching who doesn't already know, I'm working on Essentials internet package, meaning I get about a 1 meg upload speed, which is just great for streaming.
Oh yeah, that's good.
But hopefully that'll sort itself out soon, and will be all kinds of good for streaming in the future. But yeah, so we were talking about
we were talking the political dynamics of the game.
Yes.
And I don't know how much you got before it cut off, but
I
was just saying
all of
that.
it.
All right. Well, I was just saying that this Ubisoft they talk about these dynamics and stuff like that, which sounds brilliant, but it's been my experience with Ubisoft that they talk these dynamics up, but then when it comes to actually delivering these dynamics as they've sort of promised, they don't come out fully, if that makes any sense. They don't come to full fruition.
Yeah.
It's just like they sort of say, oh yeah, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, but when you actually experience the dynamic, it doesn't really live up to the hype that they put out, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I see that. That's kind of, it's almost like their MO at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of bring up the game that popped into my head just now was Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I don't know if you played that at all.
I haven't played any Ghost Recon games for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, the hype around Breakpoint was actually really good, and they hyped up all these dynamics that you could do and stuff like that. But when it actually came to experiencing it for yourself, the sort of dynamics didn't really work, and the entire game felt like a reskin of a previous game that they'd done. So yeah, I mean, again, not to sound too negative, but I like the information we're seeing. I like the dynamics for Valhalla that are coming. I just need time and be like, yeah, right, that's the way we've said we're going to do it, sort of.
Yeah, I get you. What? It's kind of, it's a shame really, because we all know that. Are we still here? Or have we lost each other again?
It's going a little bit again, I think.
Dear God.
Yeah, that's all right. I got you back now. It's all right. It seems to be sort of wobbling a little bit.
Yeah, that's cracking. I am not even connected on my phone, so that's. Oh dear. Right. We'll keep on. We'll keep on.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, that's all right.
So yeah, I get what you mean. One of the names that really comes to my head is oh god, no, it's just dropped out of my head. Fable.
Oh, right.
Fable is very much in my head when you were talking about unrealized potential, because Mr. Tim Schafer would talk these amazing ideas up and these amazing mechanics, and then no, not Tim Schafer, Peter Molyneux. I've got two entirely different names.
That's right.
Peter Molyneux, rather, would talk up all of these like amazing details and these amazing things, and then it would get to the game and it'd be like, okay, yeah, so that's basic as hell.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time though, it brings up this hype, and when you get in there and the mechanics that he introduced, things like relationships and whatnot, the moral choice system, good and evil, they worked. They were good and they functioned, which is basically all you can hope for. But they didn't quite reach the heights that they could have done.
Yeah,
and I feel like
I agree. Go on.
I feel like that's kind of what happened with Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
As that was a very, very good game to play, fantastic to play, but it was things like that choice system. You could tell they were not prepared for how that would actually affect their story. So they gave very, very arbitrary and pointless choices that really didn't change much at all.
No, they seem to dumb down the choice system for Odyssey for some reason. They sort of seem to, as you said, they seem very unprepared for it. So they sort of said to themselves, right, let's just dull this down a little bit and not make it too effective, sort of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so I think they missed a little bit of a step there. And I mean, as well, for me, while we were touching on Odyssey, technically Assassin's Creed Odyssey isn't an Assassin's Creed game because you don't play part of the Creed, you're not taking on the Templars. You can't really call it an Assassin's Creed game. I mean, with the Legend of the First Blade, I suppose you could, but that's DLC, and Odyssey sort of went against the sort of established stuff that came before it, which is good because, as you said, Odyssey is a brilliant game. I've played through it twice now, and like I said, I've just finished the Atlantis DLC. But it's just it does make me laugh sometimes when you say it's Assassin's Creed Odyssey, when in actual fact it kind of goes against what came before it.
Yeah, it feels like that DLC, the Legacy of the First Blade, really just shoehorned in a connection. But in saying that, I think it was a very well executed piece of writing, which is more than I can say for the story and the main game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean the story in the main game felt a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? It felt a bit sort of lackluster, if that makes any sense. It felt like they came up with the story at the last minute. So it was like they came up with this massive gaming world. They came up with all these characters, and then they thought, "Oh shit, hang on a minute, we haven't got a story. Quick, let's just hash all this story together and put it in the game."
Yeah,
it just felt like they really didn't take that much time with the story. And they just sort of rushed it. It felt like the story was the last thing they put into the game. And it wasn't. It like I say, it's a good gaming experience, but as for the story, it just didn't feel great.
It was a bit of a wash. And there's only two games in the entire Assassin's Creed series that dropped the ball with the story. That being Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed 3. I feel that those were the weakest stories of all of the Assassin's Creed series, just based on the characters more than anything. You had this absolutely amazing character, and this is true with Odyssey as well. You've got some really, really cool characters in there. But your protagonist is just, for a long time, I played as Cassandra rather than Alexios, because given the choice, for some reason I always choose the woman.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Maybe it's because we both have boobs. I don't know. Maybe that's it.
It could be that. Yeah, it could be that.
Just feel a connection.
Yeah.
But so I played as Cassandra, and throughout the entirety of the first maybe 6 hours, about 6 hours of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I found that she didn't have a brain. She didn't have a mind of her own. She said she did, but she didn't.
Yeah.
She was taken for a ride by literally everybody she met. And I sat there and I said this to Emily. I was like, is she ever going to make a decision for herself? Is she ever going to do? I almost gave up on the game. I literally almost gave up on the game in 3 hours, down to one character.
Yeah.
Marcos.
Yeah.
Absolutely the most annoying character.
Yeah.
He has an annoying voice. He has an annoying personality. He is clearly a scumbag.
Yeah.
And
I mean, see,
she counts him as one of her closest friends, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
He literally made you a child slave. How could you? How?
Yeah.
How? Anyway.
I mean, I see what you mean. I mean, Marcos was a bit of a scumbag, but for me personally, the most annoying character in the game, and I sort of did. This is why I did the second playthrough kind of reluctantly, was Alexos. It's just that any time, because the first playthrough I did as you did. I played as Cassandra.
Yeah.
And anytime there was a cutscene with him in it, or anytime you had an interaction with him, he yelled at you. You know, you're literally standing face to face with him, and he's literally screaming your face off. You know, he's always sort of shouting, even when he's just like talking, and that kind of wound me up a little bit. It got to the point where I just wanted to sort of grab him and be like, "Will you shut the fuck up? I'm right here. I don't have to shout."
Yeah.
You know, it got to the point where I just like I couldn't. Anytime there was a cutscene with him in it, I just, you know, I kind of turned the volume down a little bit and just didn't really pay attention to what he was saying. And it was the same when I was playing him. When I played as Alexos in the second playthrough, it just seemed like he was constantly shouting all the lines.
So that was actually Alexios as a character. Interesting, because I haven't done a second playthrough. I'm still cooling down from the 140 hours I've played on my first one.
Right.
But I just assumed that was how it was with. What was the name they gave him? I can't remember the name they gave him.
Deimos.
That's the one, Deimos. I thought that was just him as Deimos, basically. I thought that would have changed slightly and maybe transferred over to Cassandra when if she was Deimos or however you pronounce it.
Yeah. And no, she didn't actually. I mean, when Cassandra is Deimos, there is a bit more gravitas to her voice because obviously she's the evil character, so there's got to be that sort of evil intent.
I don't even feel like she's evil. She's just angry. And
yeah, she's just angry, and it's just with Cassandra, it really comes across that way. Instead of sort of being like big shouty man, I am evil, I'm going to crush you. It's sort of like, yeah, I'm a big strong woman, I'm going to crush you. It sort of seemed a little bit more subtle. Do you know what I mean? It seemed that it didn't seem sort of over dramatized. It was like, you know, yeah, I'm an evil person, I'm going to do this evil thing. You need to try and stop me. You know, so there's sort of two different dynamics within the characters' playthroughs were interesting. Like I said, I preferred Cassandra's playthrough over Alexos's playthrough 100%. Yeah, I just think with Alexos's voice character, it was just like someone said to him, right, be as dramatic as you can all the time. You know, it just didn't play well, I think.
Maybe he looked at it and just went, right, so thespian.
Yeah. So
just
like,
be
really
Thespis.
Yeah. Really over the top sort of evil guy. Yeah, well, I can do that. Let me just shout into this mic all the time.
He probably just looked at it and went, Greek theatre. I'll just shout it. That'll be fine, surely.
That'll be fine. Yeah, that'll be brilliant.
But so I mean, I enjoyed the game. Don't get me wrong. This is one of the things I enjoyed the game. It is one of we'll get to this a little bit later as well because we are going to be doing comparing top 5 games from the series, or our personal top 5s, and I'm sure it's going to come up at some point. But I want to get as much of my grievances out of the way now, so that when we get to that point, I'm not just going to say the same things over and over again. Unfortunately for Blitz, if you've never seen Blitz before on stream, Blitzkrieg Meth, go follow him on Twitch as well. He's awesome.
He's a brilliant guy.
And I haven't said it already, but go check out Carbon as well. Carbon Glitch.
Yeah.
He's here with us now, but you know, go check his stuff out. He's doing Assassin's Creed 2, so if you're a fan of that, you've gone to the right channel.
That's it.
But yeah, so I can't remember what I was going to say now.
You're talking about Blitz, yeah.
Blitz, yeah. So I
Yeah.
accidentally gave him an hour's worth of just railing on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And it's not intentional. I'm just like, I really, really enjoyed the game. And as I said to him
Yeah.
after literally tearing it to pieces for an hour, it's not that I don't like the game. I was just so disappointed. Because as somebody has played both of the DLCs as well, you could probably attest to the fact that the game just doesn't end.
No, there doesn't seem to be any sort of real conclusion to it. You know, even when you've done the sort of main without the DLCs, after you've done the sort of cult playthrough, and done the mercenaries and the sort of the starting bits to Atlantis, it kind of feels like there's a lot more to it, and it just feels like it's a never-ending story. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
even when you get to the ending of it, once you've taken out the sort of cult and everything, it just feels like there's so much more to it, and that's not. I mean, that's taken in the side quests as well. I mean, given the size of the map, you're never really going to track down all the side quests. There's so many side quests that you need to try and find and do as well.
I feel
It just
sorry
seems
for
like,
anybody who wants to treasure hunt on that game. The amount of
yeah,
places
exactly.
that you
It's
can
just,
find it is, oh god.
yeah, it's just insane. And I mean, it's just the fact that I get what Ubisoft are trying to do with it. They are trying to make it an in-depth, involved, detailed world that people want to explore and spend hours and hours and hours on.
Yeah,
But there is such a thing as too much. You know what I mean? There is such a thing as just stop. You know, we get it. We've done the story. We've done this. We've done that. We've got a chunk of it. Don't give us any more. But they just seem to be giving us more and more and more. I mean, especially as well with the dynamic that they added, where you can create your own quest. It's like,
I haven't even touched that. I have not
yeah,
touched
I
any of the
I haven't
story
touched that.
making stuff or any of the
Yeah,
actual quests that people have made because I was just like,
I mean,
I can't.
yeah.
There is too much content
There's too
already.
much. Yeah, I mean, I had a look at some of the custom-made quests. A lot of them had to do with romances. I'm not going to lie. A lot of them seem to have this sort of thing where you go and meet this person, you flirt with them, romanticize them, spend the night with them, then you have to go and do this thing for them to do this, that, and the other. It just
Yeah,
seemed a bit, yeah. It just too much content. I agree. There is a point where it's too much, you know. And I think Odyssey got to that point sort of with the first DLC. They shouldn't have done any
yeah.
more DLCs after that.
Or at least they should have done that DLC last. I think
Yeah,
because
yeah, they should have.
that
They should have
felt
really
like a
sort of.
definitive end to the story. Quite
Yeah, they
honestly.
should have. They should have reversed the release order. I think
Yeah,
really.
absolutely should have reversed the release order.
Yeah.
And again, if you're watching this now thinking, oh well, I won't bother playing Odyssey, that's not what I'm saying at all. Please, if
No. Yeah.
if you are contemplating it, please play it because it is a great game. There
Yeah.
is just
I think
for
we
me,
both
I
agree
was
with
a
that.
lot of disappointment because I'm a big story
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, if anyone's watching this thinking, "Oh yeah, bollocks, we're not gonna," I'm not gonna bother with Odyssey. Don't do that. Odyssey is a great installment to the franchise. It's a good experience. You know, there's decent mix of characters and stuff like that. It's just again the same as Duck. I was really hyped for this game, and then when I finally got to experience the game to its fullest, it just didn't deliver. It just didn't live up to the hype that was generated with it, and my expectations of it were crushed pretty quickly.
Which was a shame.
Yeah,
I'm glad I stuck it out because I feel like the gameplay. Yeah, absolutely, Emily. Play it for Alcibiades alone. He was a cracking character.
I know he was brilliant. I liked him.
I
He was fun.
I might have played. I think I role played Cassandra as the, for want of a better word, just the. How do I put this? The Mystios that bedded everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single character that could be romanced that I didn't romance.
See, I went the sort of a little bit opposite of that. I romanced a select few characters, but I didn't romance all of them. I mean, I think the only one that I really did sort of romance, and I actually quite enjoyed, is the Hunter one, the one that gives you all the legendary hunts.
Yes.
I kind of enjoyed that sort of interaction more than all the others. Um, I mean, he was funny though. I don't know how you pronounce his name.
Uh,
Achialis, something like that.
Alcibiades, I think it was.
Achialis, yeah. I really enjoyed his character. I think he was brilliant, and the sort of fact that when you get to the end of all of his sort of quests, it turns out that he's marrying someone just for the crack. He's marrying him
Yeah.
because this woman's exactly the same as he is, and it's like, wow, okay, that's like,
Just
you know,
literally a case of, well, I'm going to be in power
yeah,
because that's effectively my birthright, and
yeah,
it was always going to happen regardless of what I did.
yeah.
Because
So I might as well
apparently
share it
that's
with this woman.
yeah.
Yeah,
She wanted to be in the ear of power,
ear of power.
and he just wanted a hot wife. So it was like
Yeah, yeah.
cracking.
It
We
was
both
just
get what we want. Yeah,
that's it. It was just like out of all the sort of things in Odyssey, all the stories and everything, I think that had the most satisfying ending.
yeah.
You know, the fact that
It felt
he was sort of there.
conclusive.
Yeah, it felt conclusive. It felt like he got what he wanted in the end, and it was just like, why couldn't that be in the entirety of the game? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why couldn't that happen to everyone you come across?
I'll tell you what I did like, and this is a clever piece of writing from Ubisoft on this one. Socrates,
Yeah, Socrates was good.
because he played devil's advocate throughout the entire thing. Brought up these quests that were just what seemed like hypotheticals at first, and he goes, well, actually, they're over there, so do you want to go sort that out?
Yeah.
And he would test to see what your reaction to certain situations are. And again, this is Ubisoft doing their put a proof of concept mechanic for the next game, because that's where this choice system and the idea of not using violence to get further on is going to come into it. And that is something that I love about Assassin's Creed as a series. Each game, they put a miniature version of something that they want to make a massive deal out of later into your game. So I'm on board with that. I didn't expect that to be the thing that they went with, but honestly, it's a good move. It's a really good move, because now that we can almost, I feel like there might be a way to get 4 different playthroughs out of Valhalla if this is done well enough.
If it's done well enough, I think you could get some decent hours into it. I think you can, because I mean with Odyssey you can do that with all the little things as you just mentioned, where they take the little things and turn it into the big things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hours you can dump into that just to try and find all the things that they put into it. So yeah, I mean we were just talking about the fact that a lot of content is too much content, but at the same time, it's good that you finally have a game that you can spend hours on, that you can sort of play as much as you want until you get tired of it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's just I do like. I agree entirely. I like the fact that they take little things and little insignificant characters that you wouldn't pay no mind to, and then all of a sudden, actually, hang on a minute, that character is far more important than you ever thought it would be. You know, and I think Ubisoft did really well with that. I think that kind of dynamic works, and yeah, hopefully they'll bring that into Valhalla. They'll sort of make it so that there's like 1 or 2 little key things that normally you wouldn't pick up on, but at the end of the day, those key things are very important to how the game feels and how the overall experience will be.
Which is, at the end of the day, that's what you want out of your games. That's what you want out of your game creators. You want them to care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you do.
But again, we were talking about playing through as Alexios and as Cassandra, and that dynamic comes back in Valhalla. Just to bring us back onto topic.
Yeah, swing it back to the topic at hand. Yeah.
So we have a character called Ivor, who is called Ivor no matter whether you're a man or a woman, which I quite like.
Yeah.
So they had this is from an article from GameSpot, and they were talking to the devs about creating this particular character. So they spoke to Darby McDevitt, who is the narrative director for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and this is what he had to say. He said, "We want our character Ivor to exist in a coherent space and have a coherent personality, so that by the time you get to the end of the game, no matter which little paths you've taken throughout the game, you always feel like Ivor was Ivor. Whether you choose male or female, and both options are valid in the game, you will always feel that Ivor is coherent and complete.
Mm.
And I quite like that idea. Basically, it's just, it doesn't matter what happens, this character is the same.
The same, regardless of what choices you do and everything. Yeah.
They will always, everything that they do will be true to their character. So if you can make them do something really, really evil, but they'll link it back to a coherent reason for it that will stick
as to why.
Yeah. So he could be really, really nice, and he'll do it because of maybe compassion for somebody he has in camp. That's just speculation at this point. Or he could be evil, and perhaps that's attributed to maybe doing it for Odin, and having an idea of, I don't know, I have to sacrifice it for the gods, or I don't know. Obviously, we don't know the character just yet, but I do like the idea that there will always be a coherent reason for him to do what he's doing. It's not just, I'm evil because the player wants me to be evil, which can be basically, if going back to Fable, that's effectively what that was. It was I'm evil because you say I'm evil, but in this context, it looks like Ivor is going to be himself, and it's almost like the flick of a switch in his brain. So he'll attribute it to maybe a different aspect of his personality or his belief system, potentially. Again, speculation. But I do love that idea.
Yeah, I think given the purpose behind your actions, it would be a good sort of addition to it. Because just doing things just to be evil can get boring after a while. Do you know what I mean? Because you want to be evil and there's no set story to it, there's no set purpose to it. It's just going to be like, okay, I'm done doing that. Let's go and do this instead. So the fact that they've sort of given reasons and given purpose behind your actions, it sounds very dynamic. You know what I mean? It sounds like they've put a lot of thought into the dynamics of the game and the mechanics of it. And it does sound like there's going to be good interactions between the characters. At least hopefully there will be anyway. Hopefully the sort of story and characters will mix together really well. And the sort of story will have purpose as much as the sort of decisions you make with the character as well. The fact that hopefully it will sort of blend together and make a good overall experience rather than just having good experiences in a sort of lackluster story.
It sounds to me like with the whole camp aspect and the settling down in England, that you are going to have deep relationships with each character that you come across in camp, or at least maybe some of them. There's obviously going to be some NPCs as well. Just general standard NPCs, not plot relevant ones. And I like the idea that you're going to be making these decisions and upgrading your camp and maybe upgrading your reputation with people. Again, that's speculation. Because I haven't gone into great detail with it. What I do know is that there are buildings that you can make, and things like the blacksmith. I believe a tavern is something that you can build as well.
I also believe you can put up like idols to Odin and stuff like that. They sort of showed in one of the gameplay trailers, I think, where you could like establish an idol and put like a little shrine up in the village sort of thing that you make. It's the sort of the village dynamics and everything look kind of cool. I just hope it doesn't come across too much like Fallout. Hopefully it does. I mean, as you said, hopefully it'll be a bit more like Red Dead Redemption 2, rather than the sort of camping system in Fallout, which just seemed to get broken the more they sort of seem to work on. I mean, I've discussed it a little bit I've discussed it quite a lot in depth on my channel, but it just, hopefully the sort of camping system and the whole sort of dynamic of the villages doesn't feel like tacked on. You know what I mean? Hopefully it won't feel like they've just put it in there just to give you something else to do other than the story. Hopefully there will be more to it than, this is a blacksmith. You upgrade. Okay, fine, I get better weapons, but what else can I do with it? How else can I make it more hopefully there's a bit more to it than just establish this shop, get this, get that, do this, do that.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah.
there's a bit more to it.
Because it was very much just a case of having the right money for it when they did this aspect in Brotherhood and Assassin's
Yeah,
Creed 2.
in two, I was going to mention two. It's sort of like in that, as long as you got enough money to upgrade the shop, that's it. It's pretty much done. You can't add anything to it. It brings more NPCs in, and it makes the town a bit more full up. There's not much more to it other than as long as you got the cash, you can do it. So, hopefully there'll be a bit more to it. Hope this one, Valhalla, will take all the dynamics that Ubisoft has done and enhance them for the modern age. Hopefully.
Absolutely, yeah. That is the hope. That after all this time, that they've now perfected the systems that they think work, cut the ones that they don't, and have just got a really nice package to present to us for Valhalla.
I mean, I think that's a bit of a theme now as well, really, with most game devs. It seems like most of the sort of games that are coming out nowadays, I mean, I know most of them have been delayed, but most of the sort of new games that are coming out, it does seem as if they've taken the good bits from previous games, brought them into the modern age, used modern technology, modern graphics, and then enhanced them to the point where they are in-depth experiences than what they were. Hopefully that sort of trend continues and they just take it to the next level. Hopefully,
which is, I've got to be honest, I'm very, very excited for it. It's not even the cautious optimism that I approached Origins with. I am just very excited for it.
I am. I'm getting really hyped for it.
So, what do we think in chat? Is there anything particularly that you're excited to see? Is there anything that you'd like to see that they might not have announced or could be announcing in the future? Just let us know. I want this to be as interactive as possible. It's a nice conversation to have with another person, which is great actually, because lockdown and everything. It's sometimes I just find myself talking to the cats. So
they're good conversations, cats. I've got to admit.
Yeah, I mean, until they get a furball, and then it's a little bit.
Oh yeah, and then they just can't keep stopping talking about it. Yeah.
I know. It's just, I had this furball. It's like, I know you told me, Sven.
Just shut up about it already. Let's move on.
For the record, my cat is in fact he's called Sven. It's not just that we've been talking about Vikings for so long that a Nordic name popped into my head. My cats are Sven and Loki.
Okay, nice.
Loki is definitely named correctly because he is a little mischievous. Mischievous. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, let's use that mischievous. Let's leave it at that. Yeah, get what you're saying.
So, I think we've covered pretty much everything on Valhalla. Oh, raids. I haven't talked about raids yet.
Yeah.
Now, raids basically sound like a return to form for Assassin's Creed on the. If you think about Black Flag, I think it's going to be very similar to the fort battles from that.
Yeah.
Again, they haven't gone into depth with it, and I did just click off the article that I had open, but it's not really necessary. Because at the minute, it's surface level. It is basically another. It's like a base takeover type thing, another fortress assault.
Fortune, yeah.
And I'm assuming you get different things for maybe liberating a region type stuff from it. But this does include your Viking longboat, which means that there's going to be an aspect of ship battle and ground battle combined into one, which sounds like it's an amalgamation of the ship wars and the ground assaults that you got in Odyssey, which again I like that they've taken something from the previous game and expanded on it.
Yeah,
just goes to that previous point.
That was the dynamic they brought in with Black Flag, wasn't it? It was like you had the ship battles, but then you go into a fort, you can park the ship up, jump into the fort, take it out, and then that fort's yours.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It's the fact that I'm glad they brought that dynamic back in the later games. Not so much with Rogue, though. I mean, I must admit, while we're talking about the sort of ship dynamics and Black Flag, when I played Rogue, I felt like that entire experience was a reskin of Black Flag. It's just, yeah, I get what they did with it. They
Yeah.
changed the story aspect. So instead of telling it from the Creed's point of view, they told it from the Templars' point of view. And that was all good and everything, but it just felt like they didn't do anything new. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just felt like they took Black Flag, took the main character out of it, put a new main character in, changed it from the Creed to the Templars, and then that's it. You're now a Templar fighting the Creed, and everything else was the same.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
much.
you know,
I mean, they did put an ice ram in there though, so that's
yeah. I mean that. Yeah. I mean the ice ram. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, it made sense in context, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
it's not enough to say, well,
No.
30 quid, please. Uh,
Yeah. Exactly.
not
It
not in
just
my mind.
from yeah, it was the same for me. I just think Rogue was a very lackluster attempt at trying to move things on far too quickly. I think after
Hmm.
Black Flag, they should have taken a year off and gone, right, we can do this, do that, do this, and then moved on to the other games. It just felt like they wanted to. I feel personally that Ubisoft wanted to try and latch on to the trend that Assassin's Creed had become and wanted to keep it relevant, so they just kept releasing these games as fast as they could. And Rogue just came out. I think it came out too quickly after Black Flag, and it just they rushed it into production and just did a whole lot of things wrong with it. I mean, even the story for me. I mean, yes, I get that the story you're telling it from a different point of view, you're telling it
Yeah,
from a different dynamic, but it's not any good. There wasn't any depth to it. There wasn't any detail to it. It was just like, right, you were once an assassin, you're now a Templar. You want to get revenge on the assassins, go do it, and that
yeah.
was it.
There,
And
there
it's just
was
like,
no. They even tried to do that sort of gut punch thing where it was like, oh, now you've got to face your old best friend, and it was empty. There was nothing
yeah,
to
it
that.
just, yeah, it was just didn't work. It was like it was the same old adjective of here's your best friend, you need to kill him. You need to kill him to do the mission, and it's like that's an age-old story that goes back fucking decades. You know what I mean? It's like there was no new sort of twist to it. There was no new sort of thing to it. It was just like you need to kill this best friend in order to complete your mission,
To
and
be
that was it.
honest,
And
I
it's
have
just like,
no issue with that. Like an age-old story that was reused is reused for a reason when it's done well.
yeah, yeah,
But they didn't do it well,
no, they
so
didn't do it well at all.
it ended up just sort of being the point of the best friend's fighting gimmick is that you have to be invested in the relationship, and they didn't do
Hmm.
enough to build it up.
No,
He just seemed like, well, I'm your mentor, and that's sort of it.
yeah,
That
that's
they
it.
didn't feel like they were brothers. It didn't feel like they were friends.
Yeah.
It didn't. There was no relationship there beyond I am also an assassin.
Assassin, that's it, yeah. And yeah, I just think Rogue, they dropped the ball on that, really. It's
Mm.
just like a lot of people say we don't talk about Unity. I agree, we don't talk about Unity, but at the same time, for me, we don't talk about Rogue because Rogue was a very. Yeah, it wasn't. It shouldn't be given the title of Assassin's Creed, in my opinion. Um,
It
you
could
know,
have as a spin-off. I could be on board with it if they'd have maybe just
yeah, I mean maybe
I don't
maybe
know.
if
I don't
they
know.
if they turned Rogue into like one of the side scrollers, like the ones that
Yeah, I mean,
that
if it was
sort of people play but
Chronicles,
don't really pay that much attention to. But as a sort of game that progresses the story and progresses things, it just doesn't work. Doesn't work at all.
yeah, absolutely, Emily. I agree. It should have been DLC to Black Flag. Um, it did not do enough.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree. There wasn't enough to it. Yeah, they needed. I think if they did it as a DLC to Black Flag, it would have been a lot better. But yeah, it just didn't work as a standalone game.
not even a little bit. Um,
No,
I think we might have exhausted everything we could possibly talk about with
about
Assassin's Creed
Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Yeah,
But just to recap, it's going to be holiday 2020, so any time between Thanksgiving and Christmas will be the release for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Uh, it's set in 9th century AD England. We can choose from a male or female protagonist, but they will both be called Ivor. So, in other words, it sounds like the whatever you choose, the other one will not be part of the story. It's not going to be a Cassandra and Alexios situation. They've upgraded the combat to include dual wielding. We've got our slightly bigger map than Odyssey. The hidden blades are back. Social stealth is back, and Viking rat battles. So, yeah,
Overall, sounds like a brilliant experience.
It sounds great, and I'm very excited for it. I know I should be cautious, and I know I'm going to get let down if I go in too excited, but I cannot help it because I love Vikings. So.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really hyped to the game, and all I can say to finish it off is that Ubisoft, don't drop the ball on this one. Don't do another Rogue. Give us the game that we want to experience.
Absolutely, and please, for the love of God, finish the bloody story.
Yes, give us closure. We want closure.
Wrap it up. Just do that. And if Ubisoft, if you are listening, cheers. If you could just give us a follow, that'd be cracking. 22 off of getting affiliate now. So
Carbon Glitch as well. Go and follow Carbon Glitch on Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, you could watch him play your own games. You could be properly self-indulgent. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Now, I think it is time. We've spoken a lot about the games, a lot about the series. So, I think I'm ready to talk about our top fives.
Top five, yeah.
And get ready for this, people. I spared no expense. I absolutely did it for free because I made it myself. But I have a top 5 graphic for this.
Nice.
There we go. Look at that. Ignore the fact that I put the wrong duck on there. I figured that out after the fact, but you know what? It's about games, so I'm letting it slide.
Yeah, it works. It works.
So, my top. What we'll do is I'll give you my top 5. Then you tell me yours, and we'll go down like that. Only because that's how I've layered it in the scene. So we can't do it another way anyway.
That's all right. That's fine. Yeah.
So for my top 5, I'm getting this out of the way. My number 5 is Assassin's Creed 1.
Yeah.
It started the whole thing off. It introduced us to a new style of blended stealth and action adventure gameplay. It brought, for the first time in my knowledge, it brought parkour and free running into video gaming, which got adopted by so many other games. Like even GTA 4 was the weirdest one for that to go into, but
that had a bit of parkour in.
Had a little bit of parkour. You cannot say that it wasn't an influence to video games as a whole. And
I think if it wasn't for Assassin's Creed, you wouldn't have had Dead by Daylight. You wouldn't have had Mirror's Edge. There's so many games that you wouldn't have had because of the whole parkour thing. The whole parkour dynamic was a good feature to introduce, I think.
It absolutely was, and all this just from basically a spiritual successor to Prince of Persia. I mean, the title itself was originally going to be Prince of Persia Game, Prince of Persia Assassins, and I think midway through development they realised they didn't want to do that with Prince of Persia and just brought in the branching future narrative, and so it became its own thing, and thank God it did. So that is my number 5. Would you care to tell me what your number 5 is there, Glitch?
Yeah, so my number 5 is actually Odyssey, the game we were just talking about just now. As we were just saying about it, there's a lot of content to it, which is both a blessing and a drawback. But for me personally, Odyssey sort of covered pretty much a lot of story. There was a lot of dynamics to it. There was the map as itself, as I said earlier. It's just a huge map that you're never really going to be able to complete, even if you dump 100 hours into it. The map is never going to be fully explored. And the sort of characters as well. Cassandra is one of the best antagonists in the series. I think she's one of the best sort of characters to play.
Mm.
Alexos, as we said, is a bit of a letdown, I will admit, but Cassandra works, and she's a good sort of character to experience. And the whole sort of Mystios thing as well, the whole sort of mercenary dynamic, I think was a really good, enjoyable experience. The ships in Odyssey as well, really good. The sort of
Yeah.
battles you have out at sea, it was sort of the same dynamic everyone was used to, yes, but again, it made it in, the fact that you could board the ship and take out the whole crew,
Which was
loot the stuff, and then jump
beautiful.
off and watch the ship sink. It was just, yeah, it was brilliant. And who didn't have fun with the Spartan kick? You know what I mean? Who didn't get their enemy to the side of a cliff and just kick him in the chest and watch him fall off the cliff?
I had a
You know what I mean?
lot of fun booting people off the side of ships.
That's it. It's just, yeah, that is one of the most fun aspects of the game, and for that reason, yeah, I think for those reasons and a whole lot more, that's going to be my number 5.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I completely agree with everything you've said.
Yeah.
But we will come back to this a little bit later. So we'll go to for my number 4.
Yeah.
My number 4. There we go. Check that out. Is Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now,
Okay.
we don't talk about Unity, but I do have to talk about Unity in order to get my point across about Syndicate. Now, while Unity was a big letdown because it was buggy, it was glitchy, it was... the story was pretty much just Assassin's Creed 2, but in France. It did introduce some of the better elements for the series going forward. It started off the RPG stuff. Started off the different weapons and combat styles, which I absolutely adore, and has been adopted by every future game since. And of course, you get your... cosmetics aren't... I'm not bothered about cosmetics, but the idea of character customization came from Unity as well. But Syndicate took that stuff and ran with it, made it far better. You ended up with your hook shot, which just made traversing London absolutely amazing, because it wasn't always going to be... you weren't always going to be able to jump from roof to roof because the streets were too wide. So to give us that hook shot to keep us up high was a masterstroke. And of course, I also really enjoyed the combat itself. I don't know why, but I always like to play without weapons. I like to do like fist run throughs, and you can do it on that game if you are good enough. For me, and of course, Jacob and Evie Fry being able to switch between the two characters at will was pretty cool as well. So that's why it's my number 4.
Yep.
So what is your number 4, Mr. Carl?
So my number 4 is actually Origins, and the reason why it's my number 4 is because really, who doesn't like a good origin story? And I think with Origins, the story kind of filled in a lot of questions that a lot of people had about how the Creed got started, how it all began. It sort of went back further than Altair and just sort of said, look, this is how the Creed got established. This is why with the assassins do this and do that, do this and do that. Bayek as a character was a relatively good character. I preferred his wife over him. I'm not going to lie. I think his wife was more badass than he was.
Yes.
But as a character himself, he was a good character. He was a well-rounded character. He had a reason as to why he was doing what he was doing. And the whole thing as well behind the Hidden Blade, why the assassins cut their finger off, it's actually to honor him and to honor the sacrifice that he made, because obviously there's a bit in Origins where you're sort of in this bathhouse, you go and kill someone, but that someone cuts your finger off and you're basically left bleeding out and you have to try and escape, and that's how the whole Hidden Blade cut off the finger thing came about. It was to honor that sacrifice. Cleopatra and Antony as well, the sort of main enemies in it. I think they did really well with Cleopatra, sort of portraying her and everything. And the sort of dynamics in the game, like the camel, I always found the sort of camel a little bit funny.
Yeah.
The fact that you could just sort of call the camel and the camel be right there, sort of thing. And it was brilliant. And who didn't enjoy sliding down the pyramid? Come on,
Oh,
the
that was
fact that you
fun.
can climb up to the top of the pyramid and then just slide all the way down it like a surfboard, it was just brilliant. And the amount of times I stood on the Sphinx and just looked out over the horizon, over to the sand dunes and everything. It was just a brilliant experience. There's a few things with it, I will admit. There's a few little sort of niggly bits with it that weren't exactly polished, but I still think overall Origins was a good sort of way to explain how the party got started. And for that reason, it's my number 4. It's a good experience.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I cannot disagree with a single thing you just said there.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me question my number 3 a little bit.
All right.
Because you've raised some points that actually make me question my own thought process.
Okay.
Because my number 3 is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Right.
Now, Assassin's Creed Odyssey for me took everything that Origins did and ran with it. Again, it expanded on certain elements. Others it kind of just coasted with. But it did bring back ship battles with a reason. Ship traversal made sense in this game. The map was absolutely gorgeous, but it was let down by its story. And I feel like I'm starting to wonder whether my pros and cons are maybe not matching up to Assassin's Creed Origins upon a second thought. Maybe I should be putting Origins in this place, but I didn't. I've put Odyssey here. I might retroactively change this. I'll just go back and play Origins and go, do you know what? Actually, screw it. But I did. One of the things I do love about Odyssey though is that it went further back than Origins, which seemed a bit weird at the time, and there really didn't seem to be much of a justification for it until the DLC, where it absolutely perfectly linked in the hidden blade, where it came from, and I loved that. To be fair, it probably should have just been DLC for Origins. Instead of having Cassandra, it should have been. Well, actually, no. It'd have to have been another character, or maybe just play as the man with the blade.
Man with the blade, yeah.
Because it was perfect. It was great. I think as a piece of storytelling. But that's about the only part of the game that has perfect storytelling for me. So I loved all the gameplay. I loved traversing the map. I spent 140 hours on that because I got invested. There were some beautiful characters in it. There were some great moments. Set pieces were brilliant. The battles were amazing. But it was only let down by its story for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. Yeah, there's a few points I do agree with, and as I said earlier, there's good sort of things about Odyssey as well. But I kind of agree with some of the points you brought up there. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So obviously you didn't agree with me on Odyssey. That's further down the list for you. But where's your top 3? What's your number 3?
So my top 3, my number 3 is Assassin's Creed 2. And it's purely because of the fact that Ezio. I mean, who didn't like Ezio as a character? Do you know what I mean? Ezio sort of was more badass than Altair. He had a style and a flair to him.
Hated him.
He had a. He had a sort of boyish charm that I think a lot of people fell in love with.
Yeah.
And the sort of the dynamics in the second one as well. They just took it to the next level. You know what I mean? The fact that you can upgrade the villa, you can upgrade the town, The fact that you can upgrade the shops as well to get better weapons and more decorative weapons. The fact that you can add bits to the hidden blade, make that a bit more
Yeah.
decorative. It just seemed like the story was good as well. The overall story of it, Italy as a playground was just brilliant. The layout of it, the graphics and everything, just took it to the next level. The maps as well were a lot bigger. I felt that the towns and places you went to were a lot bigger. And there's sort of Easter eggs in the second one as well. It's like when you meet his uncle for the first time, and he goes,
Yeah.
"It's a me, Mario." It's just like who
Amazing.
didn't like that? Who didn't love that they added that kind of Easter egg into the game?
That was
And
cracking.
the fact that they carried on Ezio's storyline as well after that into like Brotherhood and Revelations.
Yeah.
I think Ezio will always be one of the key characters that people will go back to, and one of the key characters a lot of people will talk about. And yeah, for that reason, Assassin's Creed 2 is my number 3, and it's currently the one I'm playing through on my channel.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Now, Emily brings up a cracking point in the chat there. She didn't like the fact that you were literally born in that game, which
yeah.
bloody traumatizing, to be honest. You literally witness your own birth.
Yeah, I must admit that was a bit sort of interesting to put into the game, but as soon as you get past that, it's a brilliant experience.
Now, I absolutely adore Ezio as a character. He's even in game, even in the canon, he is revered as the most important assassin in history. Even more so than the man Bayek, who effectively founded the Assassins.
Founded it all.
More important than Cassandra, who was hyped up to be the biggest thing since sliced bananas in Odyssey. And even more so than Altair, the man that he himself absolutely revered.
Yeah.
So I love Ezio, and that's why for my number 2, it's Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Right.
Because I love that character, and I love the arc that they took him on. The fact that in number one in Assassin's Creed 2, he was made an assassin. In Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, he was rebuilding them, and he was taking the first steps to becoming the mentor of the Assassin Brotherhood. So he goes from that sort of brash, unpredictable kid who was fueled by anger and revenge in Assassin's Creed 2 to a more thoughtful and strategic mind in Brotherhood. So he's rebuilding the Brotherhood from the ground up. He's still trying to avenge his family who get killed right at the beginning of it, which was also a massive kick in the dick to anybody who'd played through Assassin's Creed 2 and gone, I love my villa, I love that town that I put so much time into. And they went, so about that, we're going to burn it to the ground? Burn it to the ground? We're going to burn it to the ground. So I was fully invested from that moment on. I was like, I'm going to kill Cesare Borgia, and I'm going to enjoy it. I was fully invested in the characters. It had the first iterations of the multiplayer mode as well, which were absolutely cracking. I loved them. All of the upgrades were back, and some even better than ever. The characters were all just amazing. Again, it was just a continuation of Assassin's Creed 2, but bigger. Even though, technically speaking, the game itself is, in terms of story, shorter, I feel like it was a lot better executed. So, as much as I love Assassin's Creed 2, I feel like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood just took it that tiny step further.
I mean, Brotherhood is one of the ones I haven't played yet, but I will go check out. I am going to check out Brotherhood. I'm going to do a full playthrough on that and see how it goes. So, it sounds like a good sort of experience, really.
Well, sorry for absolutely ruining the beginning of the game for you.
That's all right. I don't mind. It's fine.
But yeah, it's honestly, it's absolutely amazing, and you'll see what I mean about the becoming a little bit more analytical.
Mm.
Have you finished Assassin's Creed 2?
I have done a playthrough on it once before, back in the day, back when it first came out.
Yeah.
I've only just started the playthrough on my channel now. I've only just literally unlocked the villa in the town, so I haven't really fully started it yet. But yeah, I do sort of know Assassin's Creed 2. I have played through it once before.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I do know how that sort of ends and everything like that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, what you should do, in my personal opinion, is go from Assassin's Creed 2 straight into Brotherhood, because it picks up
Yeah,
literally the second it leaves off in number 2.
it leaves off.
So
Yeah.
you
Okay.
could, if anything, put Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood as the same game.
Same game. Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
that's the way I see it. In fact, if I could, I would have put 2 in with it, but I thought I'd stick by my own rules and not be a dick about it.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, that's fair enough.
So, what is your number 2?
So my number two is one you've already brought up actually, and that is Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Oh ho!
And it's my number two because I thought that was everything Assassin's Creed should be and more. You know, the fact that you could switch between two characters instantly was brilliant. I will attest. I did prefer Evie over Jacob. Jacob was more of sort of
Yeah,
like the tank.
yeah,
If you wanted to sort of rush in there and beat everyone to shit, then you'd be Jacob. If you wanted to be a little bit more stealthy and a little bit more strategic, you played Evie. But the fact that you could have that choice, the fact that you could, instead of just going full on sneak, you know, you had a choice between, right, am I going to brawl the shit out of this, or am I just going to sneak in there, take out some select few guards, and then take over the place before anyone realizes what's gone on?
yeah,
You know, I liked that sort of dynamic of being able to choose your play style with it. And as you said earlier about the sort of grappling hook, the fact that you could literally jump onto any rooftop was brilliant. It made getting into eagle points a lot easier as well, and a lot faster. You didn't have to climb up brick after brick after brick. You could just literally aim your hook up to the point, get up to that point, take it, and then eagle jump off, and it was all done and dusted.
yeah,
Um, you know, the sort of aspect of it as well. The other aspect about Syndicate that I really enjoyed was the fact that you go into this sort of like glitch in the game, and it takes you forward into the future, and you play as Evie's daughter, and you're working for Churchill. You're working in the sort of war, and you're trying to sort of take out the Sage because the Sage is obviously immortal, and
yeah,
it's your
yeah,
duty. They, you know, Jacob and Evie passed on the duty to you to take this guy out. And you know, a lot of people. I remember at the time, a lot of people suspected that this was going to be a sequel, that
yeah,
this
yeah,
sort of was a preview to the next game they were going to do after Syndicate. Obviously, they didn't do that, but it's the fact that you could literally go from one time period to the other, and it changed the whole sort of dynamic of the game, and it
mm,
gave you another character that you could pretty much, you couldn't really explore that much into it, obviously, but there was another character there. So instead of the two characters, you actually had three characters, and they're all interconnected and all linked up, and I just found that to be fantastic. Um, the other aspect of Syndicate, just to finish it off, I enjoyed was the fighting rings. You know, the fact that you could,
oh my days,
you know, just jump on like a ship, challenge someone to a fight, and you're in this sort of like this gypsy ring, and you're bare knuckle fighting someone. It was just brilliant. It was fantastic. And
I have to admit that is possibly my favourite part of Syndicate.
yeah,
And
it was brilliant.
if you watch my stream the other day, I actually did this, but as Evie.
All right.
And I because I'd already played through the game, and apparently once you finished it, you can't start a new one unless you delete your save file, which was a bit weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you can basically I just went through as a fully kitted out Eevee. And bare knuckle boxed a bunch of blokes and beat the living crap out of them,
Yeah.
and I loved that.
It's a brilliant experience, isn't it? It's the fact that you can go in there as a you know, and take all these guys out, and yeah, it was just overall it's a brilliant experience. You know, and the story to Syndicate I really enjoyed. You know, I thought it was an interesting take. The fact that you had a train as well that you could upgrade
Yeah, that was
and just
cool.
move around the town on, you know, it was brilliant. And yeah, those are the reasons why Syndicate is number two for me.
Yeah, but I mean, the only reason it's a little bit further down for me is just the dynamic between Jacob and Evie.
Mm.
I didn't buy into it.
Okay.
It felt very caricature to me.
Mm.
It was good. I enjoyed the gameplay. Again, it was a case of story let it down slightly, not to the extent
Yeah.
of Assassin's Creed 3 or Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I don't know. I
Mm.
didn't buy Jacob and Evie's sort of arc. They I feel like they didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
So that's the only reason it's a little bit further down for me. But I absolutely
Yeah.
love the game though. So
Yeah. No, it's a brilliant experience. It's one of the better ones.
now for my number one,
Yeah.
I have chosen uh, a game that I streamed only this past Sunday.
Mhm.
It's Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Right. Yep.
I absolutely 100% adore this game. I feel like it is the peak of the series thus far.
Mhm. Yep.
It's introduced. It took everything that the previous games gave to it and said, "Hey, I like some of this, and the other stuff not so much. So if you guys could just
Mhm.
do one, I'm going to take this and become a pirate. That cool with you guys?
Yep.
Great. That's what's
Yep.
happening then." Um,
Yep.
but it was a swashbuckling adventure on the high seas. You didn't start out as an assassin, which was novel.
Mhm.
Because
Yep.
I mean, Ezio, technically speaking, wasn't an assassin at the very beginning of the game, but it didn't take long.
Yeah.
Whereas
No.
he didn't become Edward Kenway doesn't become an assassin until around about midway, 50%,
Mm.
maybe 60% of the way through the game, because he
Yeah.
is just so interested in what he can get out of everything.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time for Edward Kenway to suddenly start going, actually, no, this is bigger than me. This is
Yeah.
bigger than my friends, and it's bigger than Nassau. Uh, it's about the world, and if I don't do something about it now, then everyone's going to suffer, and my way of life disappears.
Yeah.
And of course, the combat was just like it was in Assassin's Creed 3, which
Yeah.
I think is the most fluent combat that we've had in the entire series.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree with that. Yeah.
it's so easy to do. It's so easy to master as well, which is
Yeah.
it can be a positive and a negative because you can obviously get yourself to a position where the game has no challenge in combat anymore.
Mm.
But fortunately, combat is really only there in case you balls up the stealth.
Yeah.
So I do quite like the fact that the combat is easy enough to bring yourself back out of the problem. If you
Mm.
get yourself, say, into a fortress and you can't sneak through it because you've been spotted by a guard, and every guard in the nearby vicinity and some from abroad have decided to come in and know exactly where you are. You can fight your way out of that.
Yeah.
And it's not neck kicks, exactly, Emily. Neck kicks for the win. Um,
Yeah.
Again, I like to play things without weapons on
Yeah.
occasion. So
No, I can understand that.
I did this. I could manage to take on an entire battalion of people with just me fists, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love that because when you turn around, there's just a
Yeah.
bunch of people writhing on the floor in pain, and you just go,
Yeah.
"Booyah, bitch!"
Yeah.
So
Just walk away.
and just
Yeah.
that sense of just cool that Edward Kenway just exudes. I'm going
Yeah.
to say exudes. It's a much better word. Excretes sounds disgusting. Um, so
I
yeah,
get what you're saying. Yeah.
he is a cool ass character. The story is impeccable. The ship
Mhm.
battles are insanely good and very intuitive. And once again, it's a case of taking a concept from the previous game and going right now. Let's ramp it up to 10 and
10.
making
Yeah.
it just amazing.
Yeah.
So for me, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is my favourite in the series, and as far as I'm concerned, and until Valhalla comes out and tries to prove me wrong, it is the pinnacle of the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I agree.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
You might agree with me on this one. Either
Yeah,
that, or I
I
forgot to
was
put
gonna
a
say
graphic
that's
in.
why I've been that's why I've been a bit quiet so far. Because my number one is Black Flag. I mean, everything you pretty much said is I agree with entirely. It's the fact that for me personally, Edward Kenway as a character, it's just perfect. It is
Mm.
just brilliant. You know, the fact that you're playing a pirate that just wants to grab everything he can get his hands on, but then all of a sudden has a change of heart and is like, well, hang on a second, this is actually way bigger than just me getting all the riches, going back to England and proving to my lost girlfriend's father that I am good enough for her.
Yeah,
This is actually bigger than that. This is actually bigger than anything else that I can imagine. And you know, the fact that you literally have got that sort of roguish charm, and he continues that roguish charm all the way through until the end, even when he sort of has a change of heart.
yeah,
And the sort of, as you said, the dynamics of it, the forts, the ship dynamics, and everything in it, it is brilliant. You know, it is Black Flag is the Assassin's Creed game every Assassin's Creed game should be.
yeah.
Um,
Which I
you know,
think
they
is
just got
why
everything
Unity
perfectly
always
right with
seems
that.
so disappointing by comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just the fact that Black Flag set the benchmark for everything, as far as I'm concerned,
So high.
and it's just a shame that Ubisoft didn't really learn from that benchmark going into Unity and all the rest of them. But there is one key thing actually from Black Flag that I would like to bring up just quickly, is the fact that there's a scene towards the end. I think it's one of the cutscenes
Mm.
after you've done all the story, after you've done like the prologue and everything.
Yeah,
There's a scene where Edward Kenway has decided he wants to go back to England and sort of go back to his lost love and settle down and have a family.
yeah,
And he's on his private island and he's saying goodbye to everyone. He's just about to have a drink out of his tankard, and then he looks off into the distance and he sees all the people that he's met along his journey. All these people are now dead. Just to spoil it a little bit for anyone that hasn't played it
yeah,
yet. But yeah, he basically looks across over the tavern, and all the friends he's met along the way, and all the people he's met along the way, they're all there cheering him on, wishing him well, saying goodbye. And I'm not gonna lie, I choked up when that
yeah.
scene played.
Oh
I
man.
got to the point where I was almost in tears, and it's the fact that, you know, all these people he met weren't necessarily family, but by the end of his experience and by the end of his journey, they were his family that he
Yeah.
had lost or had sacrificed because of this hollow thing that he was chasing.
Or even
And
killed himself in some cases.
exactly, he pretty much killed the person he was to become the person that he became.
Mm.
And you know, the fact that he sacrificed all these people, and that he was still thinking of them even when he was getting out of the rat race, let's say, getting out of the pirate game
Yeah.
and going back to live his dream. Yeah, it really choked me up. It really did. It really almost brought me to tears, that scene.
It's
And yeah, for that reason, a Black Flag will always be number one, and it'll always have a special place in that special place. You
yeah.
know, it'll always be one of the best all-time games anyone can ever play. And
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will ever change their mind.
Oh no, no. I honestly, I do feel a bit sorry for Valhalla trying to top it because now
Yeah,
bringing it up, it's I'm going to be playing it on my channel
yeah,
probably on Sunday again. Uh,
nice.
so I'm I'm really looking forward to getting back onto it because it's just so good. So just to add
Yeah,
to what you were saying there about that scene,
mm,
Blackbeard is just so I don't know if it's just this look of pride on
yeah,
Blackbeard's face.
yeah.
That Edward Thatch, as he is known in this game, Edward Teach
Mm.
to some people.
Edward Teach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's disputed, but most people say Edward Teach. So I'm
yeah,
surprised they went with Edward Thatch, to be honest. Um,
yeah, yeah.
bit of a weird one. They just went,
Yeah.
no, we're being different. So if anybody says he's not historically accurate, we can say he was a play on the cat. Yeah, so
It was a plane. Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
Teach looks just so proud of you because
Mm.
it's like he's looking on at you as you've realised that thing that he's been
Yeah,
trying to teach you, that thing that he realised towards the end of his
yeah.
life, uh,
Exactly.
and that you haven't made that same mistake that he did.
He did.
And
Yeah.
oh, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it really touches the heartstrings, doesn't it? Really, and the fact that Edward, he pretty much made like a thief and escape with it. It's he was the one that got away with it. He was the one that ultimately made all the sacrifices, but at the end of the day, he didn't make the ultimate sacrifice.
Yes.
And it's just like I say, it'll always be the sort of heartstrings. It'll always be there for me. And it's just a shame that sort of Edward Kenway's story, even though they didn't really carry it on in the games, it's a shame that his sort of story came to sort of abrupt end when his son decided to go to the Templars and killed him to sort of get some like twisted revenge for not being there, sort of thing. So it was just a shame that he
there's a
sort of
book
ended
one
that
if
way.
anybody's interested. It's the Assassin's Creed
that was
Black.
the book.
Is it Black Flag the book at the end of it, or is it the Assassin's Creed 3 book at the beginning?
I can't remember now. I think it's the book that leads on to the third one. I think it's the book that's the prologue to the third one.
Right, because I think
I'd have to double.
I'm not sure, but yeah, that's.
Someone would have to double check that.
Again, the books well worth checking out because they give you some insight into the character's thoughts that you wouldn't otherwise get when you're playing the game. So, and there's some little tiny tweaks as well. There's some creative liberties taken, which are still absolutely fantastic. But yeah, just that little bit of the fact that the game ends as well with the reference to something that Haytham Kenway says at the beginning of Assassin's Creed 3 is just beautiful.
Yeah, it is brilliant.
So
the way
nice.
they tie it into the other game is just it's fantastic.
And so I'm absolutely on board with you. No pun intended.
No, I get what.
Black Flag is just the Assassin's Creed game, and it's going to take a lot of topping.
I agree, 100%.
So, do you know what? I don't think there is any better place to end this than there.
Than in full agreement.
We're just agreeing on so much. So, to close things out, I am absolutely looking forward to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm not just optimistic for it. I am absolutely just shaking in my boots, excited about it, which is impressive because I'm not wearing any boots at the minute. So, we pretty much agree on everything to do with Assassin's Creed, only with some minor differences somewhere.
With minor differences, but we seem to sort of share the same sort of agreements with it.
So I might stick around in the chat for just a little bit. I'm not sure how to raid. I don't know how to raid. Otherwise, I would raid some of these.
/raid and then you type in the username.
Who's streaming now that we can raid? Who's online?
I think COD's online.
So /raid.
Raid and then
space?
Type in the name.
Space and then, or just type the name instead?
I think it's just /raid and then space and then just type in the name. I think that's how you do it.
Well, I think we'll raid. I think we'll raid COD. We'll go and say hello to COD. But I'm again, just to close things out, I'm absolutely ecstatic about this whole thing. Thank you so much for joining me on this, the first ever What's the Quack podcast. We shall. I'll definitely be back with this. We'll be. I'll think up another topic. I don't know whether I'm going to do this weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. I'm not sure. I'll figure something out. But you are welcome to come back and discuss whatever we want, whatever I want to talk about.
Cheers for that. I mean, I was going to say if you ever need like someone to bounce off or a sort of guest host, co-host, I'd be more than up for that.
Well,
for sure.
That's amazing. We might just have a co-host, a permanent co-host then.
Yeah, I'll be up for that. Yeah,
brilliant.
Definitely.
Well,
it's been brilliant tonight.
It's been so much fun. It's really easy talking to you as well. I hope everybody in the chat's been enjoying it as well. And if you stick around, we are going to pop over. We're going to raid a good friend of ours, Art of COD. But until the next time we stream, guys, thank you very much for joining us. And tatty bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.